super sunny here too. It's like it's warm, but then this cold wind comes through. So you're like, wow, it's like super nice out. And then the breeze comes through and you're like, oh God, no, I'm not dressed for this. So.
Yeah, it's the exact same here right now. I'm not even kidding.
No, I've the window behind me. I'm trying to block it with my chair. The shade is kind of melted from 2 Christmases ago. So I don't know if you guys have these in your countries. I think this is an American thing where it's common to put these little electric candles in your window, and
we have those.
Okay, so it's like really pretty. And the thing of it is, my mom, you know, bless her heart, doesn't listen to me when I tell her that the bulbs that she bought for these are for a lamp and not for this little tiny electric device. So we put them in, and I'm actually I'm packing Kickstarter orders, and I'm smelling burning plastic. And the candle had been on for about 5 minutes. My shade was on fire, and the one over there was starting to burn. So I just ran around and put out some fires, and they're still kind of melted. So.
So hi, Emily Ree.
Hi.
Why? Thank you for taking the opportunity for me to interview you for this little interview here. Why don't you give a quick introduction about who you are?
Thank you, Riiser. I'm happy to be here. I'm Emily Ree. I'm the writer, artist, creator of the webcomic Anarchy Dreamers. I also teach a bunch of comic education stuff in real life.
Okay, that was nice and condensed. Have you been practicing that?
No, I'm just... I have to explain myself to people enough where I'm just like...
I've seen that you threw up some pictures in the Discord of you actually, you know, being at a podium and like presenting stuff. So is that the stuff where you like teach about comics and stuff?
Yeah. So the most recent one that I posted was actually a library interview, which was just me talking about my own work. But I do this thing where I speak I both teach in schools and libraries to kids about how to make comics, but then I work for a museum, and I found a way to take what I like doing, which is comics, and use it to teach museum-y things, which is my job. And so I've been asked to speak about that at different places. And that's some of my podium with a big screen behind me, photos that I posted.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
I love the idea of taking what you love and what you have to do and mixing them together. That's I believe it was Confucius that said that if you work with what you like, you will not have worked a single day in your life.
I like to live that way. I try my best to.
I'm the same. So that's what you do in your day-to-day life, like a part of it. What else happens in the day of Emily Ree?
Okay, well, so a normal day for me is getting up and checking all of the internet, because when you make webcomics, you must check the internet more than your average person, your average, you know, avocado-eating, purple-haired millennial normally would.
That's one way of putting it.
So, I saw a quote today from Law and Order where someone was describing someone as a millennial Pop-Tart with purple hair, and I was like, wow, it's me. Wow. So so that's how I'm thinking of myself today. But so you get up, you check the internet, you make sure everything's up to date, and then I acquire coffee because I can't function without my coffee, and then I go to work. And there we go. So I go to work. I work at a museum, and we're actually an American history museum. But like I was saying before, I found a way to take my job as education assistant, where I go into schools and I teach kids about history, but use comics to do it. And I've been really successful with it. So depending on the day, I'm either prepping to go to a school, or I'm going to a school, or during the summer, I'm doing a lot of camps. Like I actually have 3 camps that I'm doing fully this summer, and I'm teaching comics at a library. I'm teaching creative ways to learn history and make cool stuff at one camp, and then the other camp is like our general like summer camp. Come to the museum, go on the hayride, run around the woods, you know, city adventures.
Hey, as long as the weather is nice enough, then like that can be amazing too.
Exactly. No, it's honestly, I love my job. It's a fun job. But so I do that. I'm usually between the afternoon to dinner time, I'm out of school, and then I come home. Sometimes then I'm going on to take a class in something else because I love learning, and I love learning about art. I live close enough to New York City where I can pop in at night to take classes, which is great. And then I come home and I make comics. And I make comics well into the night some nights, and then I go to sleep and start over again.
Holy crap. So like, no time for hobbies? You don't read books or play video games or anything?
So I read comics. I read books through work a lot, which, because now that I can do comic things through work, I found a way to do kind of like my own thing, like read kind of what I'm interested in. I watch a lot of documentaries, a lot of Netflix. I like taking walks. On my days off, I'm often traveling. I like just, you know, not too far, but I like going on train rides places and seeing new things. And I like going on like hikes and walks, and I like people watching, honestly. I find other people really interesting, and I like just seeing people doing their thing. I like meeting new people. And also conventions. Conventions are like one of my absolute favorite things to do. Not just because like now I'm there as a creator and like sharing my work. I also just really like meeting people and getting excited about what other people are doing. So
no, I can imagine, like, if you enjoy meeting new people and watching people going to a con, it's like the best.
Yes! It's really exciting. I've made so many friends. One of my most famous friends is Mr. Cloudy Days. I met him at a convention, so that was really cool.
I never heard of him.
I know, right? He kind of floats through the atmosphere sometimes, but you know.
I think I recall someone having a passing interest for Anarchy Dreamers, but that can't be it.
Yeah.
Seriously, gotta thank, huge shout out to Cloudy for suggesting Anarchy Dreamers, because like that, I just kind of felt like that was an important part in the webcomic relief, because how to say it, reading Anarchy Dreamers was a turning point in the webcomic relief, because I started doing things differently with that episode. I started using the music, I started using the new intro and everything, and I did that with Anarchy Dreamers because it was a friend of a friend's comic, and I wanted to do something extra, and that is now the current formula of the webcomic relief. So like, huge shout out to Cloudy, and huge shout out to you for making such a good comic.
Thank you. No, thank you. That was such a cool experience. This is kind of an aside, but I caught the very tail end of the Jello Cartello stream where you premiered the new intro, and at the very end was the Anarchy Dreamers title card. I had no idea this was coming, but I literally saw 10 minutes before that happened, and then that, and I was like making noises and jumping around my room. I was so excited I couldn't believe it. So thank you.
We had to put a gag on Cloudy, because he had to he had to do the beginning part of that. And I was like, you cannot tell Emily we're doing this. It's a surprise. and he was like, oh, but I really want it. So,
Cloudy.
Yeah. Good.
He's a good boy.
He's the goodest boy.
The goodest boy.
The goodest boy. So, like, you go to all these presentations about making comics and all that stuff. How long have you been working with comics, art and writing and all that stuff?
Oh man. So the story I always tell, which is totally true, is that I always wanted to draw and write even when I was a little kid. And what I'd often do is draw pictures when I was like 4 or 5, and I'd ask my big cousins to write in the words for me because I couldn't spell because I was a small child. But so I've always really liked doing that. I have composition notebooks from like 2nd grade that have these atrocious little comics in them, and they're off in a closet somewhere. But so I've always been doing this, and I'm just under the impression that I just never shut up and I never stopped drawing ever as a child. So no one really stopped this, and they let me just keep doing it. And I've been putting webcomics online since I was 12. None of them were very good because, 12. And I loved art so much, but it was all coming like from my heart. I never really sat down to actually practice it until I was probably, 16 or 17. But I was, my first webcomic, I think I started it in March and I was at 200 pages by like July. Because, there's that point when you're like 12 where you have no responsibilities but the ability to do things you couldn't do like 2 years ago. And like that was the summer that I just drew comics nonstop. And they were atrocious, but that's what I did. And I was really proud of myself. And I got trolled to all oblivion because I was a 12-year-old on the internet and who didn't know any better. But, better person for it. But serious comics, I'd say I've been making since like 2010 or 11 or so. I was in college. I did like my first serious attempt at a comic and I actually finished that one. And then I started my first attempt with Anarchy Dreamers in 2013. And then what we know as Anarchy Dreamers today premiered in 2015. And that's kind of my big project right now.
I like what you're saying about making atrocious comics as a kid. I remember the very first comic I did. My dad had just got me Bomberman for the Game Boy, and I would make I don't know why, but a comic where Bomberman was fighting Wario, and I remember like I remember,
it's cute.
Yeah, I know. And I remember reading a bunch of Spider-Man at the time, and one of the things that for some odd reason stood out to me was those boxes that said like 10 minutes later or 30 seconds later or something. And that was like all there was to the comic. It was just like these panels with like so-and-so later. But the problem was because I was a fucked up stupid kid, I didn't know what a second was, or a minute was, or an hour was. So at one point, Bomberman sets up a bomb, and 30 hours later, it blows up. Like, it was the dumbest shit ever.
That's okay. I had a comic where the story was that these kids accidentally fell onto a cargo ship that was leaving New York City and they ended up in another country. But so I drew the map of like where the boat went. But I drew the boat making like 8 stops really kind of close to New York City. And I remember finding it years later, being like, they could have jumped off like there and they would have been like around the corner from home. But no, they just stayed on the stupid boat until they hit question mark. But
just leaving from New York, entering this new exciting world. Where are we? Queens.
Yes, honestly, it was like the first stop on this trip was like New Jersey, and it was like, oh, so they went like that. Oh, you could have walked across a bridge to get home at that point. But anyway, I digress. I have students who make comics, and the comics that I have kids make through my job have to have some, even just a passing relation to what I'm teaching them about, like, basically New York State history. And some kids will do like a straight up biography of someone. Some kids make stories about time traveling ghosts. Like, they're allowed to do really whatever they want as long as it kind of fits into the general idea of they learned something about history. But I have this one kid who I could not convince to really follow directions. And he did something eventually, but he basically rewrote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like 3 times. It was really, I was like, that's the thing. If this was like a regular comic club where they could do whatever they wanted, I'd be like, dude, that's awesome. Great job. But I'm like, no, you can take this concept, but you need to put something from history in it. He goes, okay, so they go back in time and then Shredder. I'm like, no, honey, no, you can't do that. But anyway, kids are great. Kids have fantastic ideas. They don't always make sense, but they're definitely creative and interesting.
That's. I always hear this thing about like, oh, you're childish or you're not very mature, and I'm like, that's sometimes really really good because you sometimes need to keep that spark that that creativity that you have as a kid, and and the drive and the passion as a kid, where you believe you like because everything about being an adult is like you can't do this, you can't do that, you're limited to this, money, politics, blah 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 blah. But that's where you need to keep your creativity as a kid, and you need to have like that gumption, that spark you have as a kid. So like kids can be annoying shitbirds at times, but don't ever grow up like that. That's how I
agree.
Anyway.
No, I agree 100%. And you know, kids get a bad rap. People just, I find that people who think that kids are terrible people now sometimes, and they were probably a terrible child. But most kids are, you know, they're crazy, but they're fine. They're just being their age. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly. But speaking of you know, doing art and all this stuff, I think this came up when you responded to my Anarchy Dreamers video about having a background in art in school. What was that?
So I actually have a degree in fine art painting. And I'm staring off in the distance. There's a 4-foot tall painting of the Virgin Mary that I did in college, but it's very my style, Virgin Mary off in the corner. But so anyway, I did fine art painting. I'm technically trained in fine art painting, so it's oil paint, acrylics, sculpture, printmaking, although I passed that by the skin of my teeth, and like, you know, life drawing, which I legitimately enjoyed doing to this day. But yeah, I have a fine arts background. I don't actually have an illustration background. Part of me is glad that I pursued a fine arts background because it makes for like, it kind of opens some more opportunities for me in the workforce. Because illustration, if you go to school for illustration, you're very focused towards illustration. If you go to school for fine arts, like you can work in museums like I do. You can be an art teacher, which is kind of the other thing I do. I mean, not that there's a lot of jobs in the arts anyway, but also then other times I'm like, man, I wish I went to school for illustration because then I might be good at inking. Like I might be 3 years ahead of where I am now, but what you gonna do? But it definitely, when you're in fine arts, they really train you to be free, to be like kind of, everything you do should be a little bit hard to understand to make people think, which is just kind of like a modern interpretation of art right now. And it's also one of the big things that supposedly separates illustration and fine art is like fine art is up to interpretation and people can argue that it's one thing or the other thing, whereas illustration is supposed to be straightforward, you know exactly what's going on all the time. And that's kind of where I run into some problems with my own comic, is that sometimes I get so like out there that it's hard to tell what's happening. So I'm actually teaching myself to, or trying to teach myself to dial it back a little bit.
I remember that was one of the things I pointed out was that what's going on here? But at the same time, like it's a double-edged sword for you, I feel, because when you look at Anarchy Dreamers, it is hard to look away because it is so different. It is so colorful. It is a color palette you never see. Like Tabby is like fucking Turkish and pink, and like like it's in your face, and that's what I feel really works for it. And then there's the times where you don't really know what's going on, but that part you can work on easy. So like you can file that other edge of the blade down to where it it won't damage you. And I can understand from some of my viewers who are following your comic that you are well on your way of fixing that issue. I have to say I haven't been keeping that much track of it since the video, but I do hear good things.
Thank you. Well, it's actually it's interesting that you bring this up now, because the page I'm working on right now is the first page where we're back in one of those absolutely insane dream worlds again, where nothing makes sense anymore. But I'm trying really hard to keep it focused so that you know what's going on, but it's still absolute insanity around you. So, I mean, like literally like earlier today I was working on it and the whole time like, okay, you're going to do better this time. You're not going to rush it and it's going to look really good. So pumping myself up a little bit.
That's good. That's good. You have all this. Is it called luggage? You have all this stuff in the past. You have your skills, you have your work, you have the comics you've done before, and all that stuff. What does that mean for the future? Like, what are your hopes and dreams? Like, what's gonna happen to Dream M in the future?
Okay. Well, the ideal situation I would find myself in is to be able to do comics as pretty much my main job, but I still want to be able to teach, work in a museum part-time. Like, I'd like to be in a situation where I was making my own stuff, like making Anarchy Dreamers or making another comic that's totally me, but also working for some other companies, because I like the idea of getting published by a bigger company, even if it's not my story. I've done a little bit of work for other companies. I think it's fun. But I like working with people so much that I couldn't be stuck in a studio all day just drawing by myself. So that's why teaching or like working at a museum or just like, you know, interacting with people in some kind of like creative way would do me a lot of good. And I would like to share whatever skills I have with other people. So I guess that's the ideal situation. I'm kind of at this crossroads right now, because my art style is funky and different, but it doesn't really fit into any of the boxes for traditional publishers, which I'm mostly totally fine with, except that I would like to continue doing stories that are kind of on the serious side. But when I just speak with people on pass and they're like, "Oh, do you draw My Little Pony? Your style looks like My Little Pony." I know. And like, no judgment to anyone who likes My Little Pony. Totally fine. I understand the like of the art style a lot. I really do. Yeah. But that's not my thing. And I get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, you should draw kids comics." And I'm like, I think I could draw a comic for kids that other people wrote. What I like writing is like young adult and up. I like writing, like, look, Anarchy Dreamers is 13 plus, is what I say. And it's really like 13 plus because they drop an F-bomb every once in a while. But still, you know, most of the time when an 11-year-old picks up the comic at a con and I tell the parents that there's some swear words in it, they're like, so I'm like, okay, fine by me. But anyway, so I'd like to continue doing stories that have a little bit more of a serious slant, but it's kind of also an uphill battle because people look at my art style and consider it kind of immature and kiddish, and I'm like, but it's not. Trust me.
I don't know. I mean, I remember when I did we apparently going to return a lot to the Anarchy Dreamers review, but one of the things that I like spent a lot of time complimenting was your first page, because I really think that's such a good tone setter. The moment you say, "Hey, bunch of kids died," then hey, this is not for children. Because kids died. I mean, like, that's such a good tone setter, and it's. I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but it's so important when you have this very colorful, very, in lack of better words, child-friendly art style, to then just go, no, fuck you. This is for 13 and up, and I think you did that really, really well with just, hey, dead children. How about that?
Thank you. I mean, I don't think it was exactly what you said was what made me want to put that there, but I did want to make it obvious that it was that kind of a story. I don't know. I don't know if, I'm assuming you've never saw my first version of Anarchy Dreamers. I did one that lasted about 120 pages, and it was, I think stylistically it's a little bit cooler because I was definitely leaning way more on my inspirations from like Panty and Stocking, so it's more stylistic, but it also doesn't make any sense. And also, they had not met the goose-god yet after 120 pages. Nothing had happened. It was just like, here's this world, and it's cool and weird. And I was enjoying doing this weird thing where like you didn't know what kind of story this was going to be until a certain point. But then, like, I reread it, and I'm like, wow, I would put this down if I was the reader, because I've got no idea what I'm in for here. So with the new one, I was like, nope, right away, we're going to know exactly what we're in for here. There's a school shooting, and there are undead children here, and that's who your main characters are.
Okay, so I'm glad you just like you just came right out and said it. School shooting, because I at the point where I was reviewing Anarchy Dreamers. Did I just forget the name? When I was reading Anarchy Dreamers, they kept talking about like the tragedy, and I knew, and I called it in the video what it was without even saying it, and I just really want to give you massive props because of that. Because no, I'm serious here, because that's actually something we will also be tackling in the next webcomic release, is the whole thing about giving attention to something that shouldn't be given attention to. I don't necessarily think that you shouldn't give attention to a school shooting, but you shouldn't over-glorify it. You shouldn't, like, this. So by the fact that you're not saying, oh, it was a school shooting, you're not just going, like... It's kind of like using rape as a dramatic tool. Like, you're just throwing it out there because there's a lot of negative connotations to the word. But you instead want to focus on what the result of that was. And everything that the characters do, complete with like how they talk about it, how they... like the festivals and all that stuff, you really get a feeling of this is what happened, but we're not told that it was that, and that's great, I think.
Thank you. That means a lot. No, that means a lot. Thank you. I've always so I got really heavy into trying to improve my art for years, and then one day I made the realization that I had been a good writer, like, in middle school, and I had never tried any harder than that. So with Dreamers, I tried really hard, but I wasn't no one was telling me that it was, like, comparatively better than anything I had written before, but I was trying really hard. I was reading books about how to write things, and so it means a lot to me. It means a lot to the me that wrote that back in 2015, that it was done well, and it was done in a way that wasn't so in your face, but you still knew what it was, so... that's validation, so thank you.
You're very much welcome. It's just like I'm trying to translate things here, so it's a little, but it's tasteful. I think that's the word I want to go for, because just going, "Hey, school shooting," then it's like,
yeah.
but not. You're not even like, I won't say you're hinting at it. You're very much addressing that it happened. You're just not dropping the word, and for some reason that makes it a lot more tasteful, I find. Well, that and you don't, show the thing happening.
No, I could never. I personally could never make a comic that I was okay to selling to, 13 and up with that imagery in it. If it was like R-rated, that's something else, but I'm also not the artist for that. And also, like, I want people, like, I don't know, I don't want to draw my characters going through that. Like, not my thing. Some people like doing that, but not me.
We leave torturing their OCs up to Soraya and Zach. They love doing that shit.
Yes. Oh, yes. I had a lot of internet friends when I was in high school, and, you and I are around the same age, so we definitely had similar internet friends who were like, I've got my comic, and here's edgy OC, and here's their horrifying life, and everybody has trip pants, everything is black and neon green, and that was almost all of my internet friends. And I thought they were really cool, and I don't think I was cool enough to write a character like that, but then I got to be like 17, 18, and I was like, I'm concerned now about why they were writing these characters. But anyway, it's not my thing. I was around a lot of it. It's just not my thing to write.
I didn't have the neon green thing. The thing from the mutual consensus between like the people who would always go like, look at this thing I did or something, was katanas.
Oh, yes, that's a good one.
Everyone had katanas.
That's a good one. Neon green and black trip pants. Katanas was a big one. Well, there was something else that was...
red eyes.
Red eyes. Basically, like, if it was in Hot Topic or if it was in Naruto, someone in my circle of friends had that as one of their characters. And
fingerless gloves?
Of course. No, I was fingerless glove person. Oh. There's a lot of photos of me from, like, 2005, 2007 wearing fingerless gloves. For no reason.
I am so happy it is not just like my circle of friends.
Oh, I love that stuff. I went on a vacation in middle school, and we went to Washington D.C. and it was the first time I'd ever been to a particular bookstore that's actually a national chain. But we just didn't have one by me yet, and they had this manga section, and I couldn't believe it. And that's where I bought Bleach for the first time, which I know it's everyone's least favorite shonen series, but my God, was that my favorite series in high school?
Bleach was the shit.
Okay, thank you.
Bleach was the shit up until they saved Rukia. And as far as I'm concerned, it stopped there.
Same. I think I owned up to like volume 32, but I was just reading it because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And then I just stopped. I didn't care anymore. But I'm looking off the corner on my desk right now. I have volumes 1 through 8 on my desk because they were definitely a huge inspiration to me. And I think that's one of the best examples of like urban fantasy that I can think of, like in a comic. Just I'm sure there are better, but like the first, like up until Rukia gets taken back to Soul Society, that was such fantastic urban fantasy. That really inspired me to be like the genre I wanted to work in.
Tide Kubo really, like, I think that's what put Bleach on the map, was the whole thing, because like you had Dragon Ball, which was like one of the big ones, which is in a fantasy world. You have One Piece in a fantasy world, and you have Naruto, which is in like a steampunkish fantasy world. And then you have Bleach in fucking Tokyo, Japan. Like, it is, and you have, I remember one of the things that I adored about Bleach. By the way, I traced a shit ton of Bleach as a kid. But one of the things that I loved about Bleach was the clothing they wore. It was always super stylish. They always had like these shirts with, and you knew they were like legit shirts because they would like have numbers and words that didn't mean shit. and like these like ripped denim jeans, and it was like just, it was so much. It's so cool to see a normal kid, not just in a stupid like stupid uniform. And I really like, again, Bleach was awesome until it became repetitive. Yeah, until it became repetitive. Cody, who is a super huge anime fan, has told me that it becomes greater during the Quincy resurrection, but honestly, I don't want to stick around for that.
The only thing that I really paid attention to there was you got some backstory on Ichigo's parents like meeting, which just kind of warmed my heart. And then I think everything horrifying happens after that, but somebody had translated that when it came out, and I was like, oh, I care again. And I was like, no, we're not going back into this. We're gonna just know that happened and be happy with it and move on.
I had distanced myself from Dragon Ball, but I gotta admit, I'm back in now, so.
It's a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, I think Dragon Ball FighterZ did it. But enough about Animu. It's time to talk about the only show on the internet that matters. How did you find the webcomic relief, and how did you like the episode of Anarchy Dreamers?
Oh man, okay, so I found webcomic relief through Mr. Cloudy Days. But it was like, he didn't show it to me. It was like, he shared a link, and I was like, webcomic series? Sign me the F up. Like, that's what I like. So I went in, and I know I don't remember what episode it was. I think it might have been the re-upload of Project Second. And I think that might have been why he shared it. And I was like, ooh, drama. What happened over here? But anyway, then I for 2 weeks just binged the whole thing, and I watched the whole Las Lindas series in 2 nights or something. Like, I was just making comics. Like, I've got my big screen, I had comics here, webcomic relief here, and that's just what I did, and I loved it. And what I really liked about webcomic relief, what I really like about your reviewing style, Riiser, is that you are not, despite what you may call yourself, you are not an asshole, and I appreciate that. Because the internet is really mean, and the internet can be particularly mean to people who dare to be creative if they're not a god at it when they first appear online. And what I appreciated was that although some of the comics you were reviewing were, everyone was aware that it was a shit show, and that's what was going down. But some of them were you know, this person is obviously young and they haven't studied art, but, you know, they can improve, but we're not just going to sit here and say, oh my God, you can't draw faces. What's wrong with you? Because that's most of the other webcomic reviewers I find on YouTube. But anyway, I really, really appreciated that. And also I find that Cloudy is a pretty good judge of human beings, and you guys were friends. So I'm like, well, there we go. Good guy. The Anarchy Dreamers review, like, blew me out of the water. I wasn't expecting it. So the day the review went live, I had to go to work that day, and it was a 12-hour day because we have a big Halloween ghost tour event at my museum. So I'm there working a normal day, and then I'm there until, like, midnight, guiding people around the museum in the dark while people in historic costumes jump out at them. It's a lot of fun. But it's like cool. It's so cool. Honestly, it's a really cool event. But like, that's like a massive long, like horrible long day. And that's when you get like a 20-ounce thing of Red Bull and you chug it and you just try to stay chipper. But like, I woke up to that like announcement that it was up, and I was like, I don't care. I'm not going to eat breakfast right now. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this. And whenever I get some kind of a review on my work, especially if it's like more than just like one comment, I get really excited and then I get terrified. So I'm like holding on to like a blanket or a pillow. I'm like watching it. I have to pause it every once in a while to stand up and then sit back down. And I was like, wow, what a respectable and accurate and fantastic review. And like you told me things that I wasn't realizing. And I was like, thank you. Because I'm, you know, you get so hyper focused on one flaw in your work that you don't see places where you can improve in other places. And I'm rambling at this point, but still, it was a fantastic review. It meant a lot to me. The comment that I typed underneath the review was me after just finishing watching it and wanting to leave my truest thoughts on it, but also having to run to work and trying to also not sound like an idiot. So I was like, lots of exclamation points! Yay! And then I disappeared at work, and I just kept refreshing the review on my phone all day to see the comment. So it was a good day. I'm sitting in the dark with all of our costumed like ghosts around the corner where no one can see us, and we're just all looking at my phone and looking at the new comments and things like that. All these people in Revolutionary War clothes are standing around a tiny iPhone. The only thing illuminating the darkness around us is the iPhone screen of the webcomic relief. So, thank you.
That sounds almost poetic. Well, I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, and thank you for all the kind words. That's really what makes it worth it, is just to know that you can reach out and help people like that. And even if I sometimes come across as very passionate, let's use that word. I do at my core just want you to, the person who is making the thing, to do better. Because if you can do good stuff, then I can read good stuff, and other people can read good stuff. You get more money. Everybody wins.
Very true. Very nice.
But you have, speaking of the Webcomic Relief, you have been very active in the Webcomic Relief Discord. You have kind of become like the Mother Goose of the Webcomic Relief Discord,
no.
where a lot of I'm seeing a lot of people are coming to you for advice and tips, and you're always incredibly helpful. You take the time to give them advice and suggestions and stuff like that. Do you have and I know that you have like this thing where you present about how to make comics and stuff. Do you have any like tips that you want to share with people, stuff that you wish that someone had told you before you started making comics? Yeah,
no, totally. Okay, so the biggest piece of advice that I give people, because it was one of the deciding factors for me rebooting Anarchy Dreamers from the 2013 one to the one we have now. although you think you're never going to want to print your webcomic, nowadays you are probably going to print your webcomic. It's becoming normal at this point. So before you start making comic pages, go find a printer that you might want to work with someday. And I can ramble off a bunch. The printer I use is Kablam, and they're awesome. And you can literally print one copy of your comic, no matter how big or small it is, or you can print thousands, and they're awesome. But every printer has a template on their website, so just get that template, even if you don't think you'll ever print this comic or you might not print it for 5 years, and use that template for your webcomic for every single page. Even if your pages are super long, line that template up on top of each other and make sure that both of those, that really long page fits perfectly into that template twice or whatever. Because if you want to print this thing, you're going to save yourself so much time and heartache. Because even if you think you can resize it onto a template, I guarantee you can't. Because it's never going to look right. I mean, there are people now who animate their webcomics. That's a whole other thing. I know Homestuck had some horrifying issues back in the day with printing it, but now Viz picked them up. And I think Viz prints like Shonen Jump in English. So like Viz has the resources to print an animated webcomic. But most of us don't. So use a template. I know people hate layers. A lot of people hate working in layers, but work in layers if you're working digitally, because again, you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache down the road. There are some great books about making comics that I always recommend to people. Anything by Scott McCloud is great.
I'm going to write that down here. Remind me of that.
I will. It's actually, I'm staring off in the distance because I can see my Scott McCloud books over there, but I can't reach them from here. But there's 2 Scott McCloud books that are great. One is like the theories behind why comics work as a medium, and then the other one is actually making comics. And these are essentially textbooks, but they're entirely done in comic format, which is amazing. And he's a gift to the comics world. There's also a book that a lot of people love, which I like it, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's by the JoJo guy, so everybody loves it. But he basically wrote about his experience making comics, and it's a fantastic reference if you want to make a series that will be popular and sellable. If you're trying to be like weird indie art kid, there's some tips, but also it's the JoJo guy writes how you expect the JoJo guy to write and how you expect his life to have gone. So there's that. That's brand new. I think it came out last summer, and it's on Amazon, and I will give Riiser the name of that one too. And then there's one that SHOJO Beat put out in like 2007, which came out in Japan in like 2000. So the authors in it are super antiquated, and unless you read SHOJO comics in the 2000s, you're not going to know any of them. But the information's fantastic, and it's a comic making book. Actually, let me see if I have it behind me. One sec, because I can't remember much else about it. Darn it, I don't have it with me. Anyway, it's a comic about it's a comic about making comics, and it's a little panda that wants to be a shoujo manga artist, and they basically introduce her to like 20 shoujo manga artists who meant something in like 2000, and they teach her all the steps making a comic, and then in the end she gets her comic published. But if you want to make manga, I found that's actually a really fantastic reference, because it goes from everything from tropes, script writing, dressing your characters, picking a title, how to use screen tones, some antiquated information about computers. But anyway, good info. I've heard other people recommend that one too.
This is Photoshop 98.
They have like this one artist drew her setup, and she's like, Macintosh computers are the only ones that can handle art programs. And I'm like, oh, hun, you were right. You were, but anyway. So read up on it, but also like, if you are really new to writing and drawing in general, like you've been doing this completely as a hobby, or if you're like really young, like you're in high school, you're in early college, don't study too hard until you're really serious about doing it. Because what ends up happening is that if the passion's gone. What people used to do online, which I think they've calmed down about, is someone would walk in and be like, I want to learn how to draw people. And like angry artists would show up and be like, Andrew Loomis! Ah! And then they'd scream at you that you have to be able to draw exactly how this man drew in the 1950s before you could ever be considered a good artist. And what you'd watch is somebody try really hard for about 3 weeks and then just give up. So study, but not too hard until you're really serious about being like a professional or having a high quality hobby comic, and then put the effort in. I don't know. That's my opinion. I hate seeing somebody who has a lot of passion just get it sucked out of their soul because they studied too hard way too early.
Yeah, I study as a graphical design technologist, and a lot of that is just like, it's fucking math converted into art. It's fucking weird. And so much of it is just putting up a grid with help lines and stuff. Like if the thing is like 5 centimeters from the right, it has to be 5 centimeters from the left, and that is fine on official documents and stuff because it gives structure and all that stuff. But you also sometimes have to say, you have to go punk like Taj and just go fuck the rules and just do whatever. That's art. Art is a bursting out of the frames. It is doing what it's a form of expression of you and what you want and what you think and what you like, and you can't put that in a box.
Exactly. You got to be punk about it a little bit. I think that being punk about a lot of things in life is what makes life good and interesting, and makes for not boring people.
What is it that punk is romantic, or punk is what? He says something like punk is cool or something.
Or crap, I can't remember. Hold on, I can look it up. But no, caring is punk as fuck. Yeah, that's what it is.
Caring is punk as fuck. Like, I love that quote.
Thank you. Now, I should put that on a button or something. That would be great.
Yeah, I would buy one.
I already have a magical motherfucker button that does pretty well at conventions. So
magical what?
Just magical motherfucker.
Magical motherfucker.
I have magical boy, magical girl, and magical motherfucker. Also chaotic dreamer, but that one's more Anarchy Dreamers related.
I would have magical motherfucker on my hat. I actually did. For the longest time after I had reviewed Anarchy Dreamers, I had these 2 pins that I got from back in your Kickstarter, and I had them on my hat, and on one side, and then I had the thing from what the fuck was it called? Like a Daisy on the other side. But we had to go to Vegas, and I couldn't have them in there, and I just haven't put them back in. But
I thought you were gonna say you had to like get rid of them at the airport. I was be like, no, I'll send you.
I think I have them there actually. Hold on, I have to. Do you also have like one of these bowls where you just have a bunch of bullshit in?
Oh yeah, totally. It's over there. I'm staring at it.
I have a lot
nice.
I have a lot.
That's how you do your Riiser cosplay, right there.
Like put this on, nerd. I don't have it here. I have a different place. I might have it, but yeah. I also see you have a small collection of pins and stuff.
Yes, I have my wall of pretty things. Half of about a quarter of these are mine. The rest of it is just stuff that I think is inspiring and cool. I have some. I mean, I'm actually blocking most of my own stuff, which is over here. But just stuff I like. I like stickers. I also like. There's these like Japanese dress-up stickers, and I have them on my wall, except for this one. But you're like, look, it's like a little doll, and you can dress her up in clothes. And I never actually use them. I just like looking at them because I really like drawing clothes. So it's mostly what this is. I actually have 2 bulletin boards. This whole corner here is bulletin boards of things that I think are cool.
That's awesome. We were often told in my class that we have to have paintings and stuff so we can always get inspired for new logos and shit. I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. But okay, Emily, I'm gonna throw you a segue now. I'm gonna throw it up in the air, and I want to see if you grab it. Okay?
All right.
I see you have a very cute tabby plushie there behind you. If I was interested in getting such a plushie, how could I go about acquiring such a cute tabby plushie?
Why, thank you, Riiser. She is awfully adorable. So, this tabby plushie is actually a Anarchy Dreamers Kickstarter exclusive. She is made entirely out of felt. She's like 6.5 inches tall. I don't remember how much it is in centimeters at the moment, but she's made one of a kind by our wonderful plushie maker, Kate. And if you were interested in getting one, you could back the Anarchy Dreamers Volume 2 Kickstarter, which is currently live. Yeah, right? Yes, it's actually already funded, which is fantastic. But right now we are going for a stretch goal to reprint Volume 1 because Anarchy Dreamers Volume 1 has been kickstarted 2 times inside the same year and has sold out both times. So currently, I cannot keep up with the demand for the supply of Anarchy Dreamers comics. So we've just kickstarted Volume 2, which will be finished at the end of this month. And will go to the printer in late June or early July to come out in August. But right now we're trying to get, as a stretch goal, get Volume 1 reprinted. So if we're about $1,000 away from that stretch goal, so anybody who's interested, if you want to pop over to the Anarchy Dreamers Kickstarter, you can back for Volume 2, and then when we hit that Volume 1 stretch goal, you can add it to your pledge if you don't have Volume 1. And it's going to be available at a discount. So it's actually going to be available as a add-on at less than I sell it at conventions because I really want to get it printed. Honestly, I get messages every day asking if people can buy Volume 1, and I'm like, not yet. Hopefully soon. So, thank you.
Yeah. As we did with, it's not going to be entirely as I did it with Skid and Foofy, where I also plugged their Kickstarter a little, where it was like for every one of my people that would donate so and so, I would personally donate a certain amount of that. I can't do that anymore because now I'm a student. I turn and twist every fucking penny, but I want you to, once we're done with this interview, say how much like that you have reached in your Kickstarter, and then once the video goes up, I want to see if there is an increase, and if there is, if you could give me that number, I will then tweet it out and throw it in the Discord so we can see just if the Webcomic Relief can do it again, because we fucking did a home run at the UberQuest one, and I'm damn sure that the greatest community on the internet can do it again. So
I think so too.
No doubt. So for those of you who are watching this video, there will be a link to the Kickstarter. I will probably forget it, but there should be a link here, but there will also be one in the description. Go there, and if you have a little extra money, throw it at the Kickstarter. It would mean a lot to me because I really, as you've seen, I really like Anarchy Dreamers. And I was like, Emily Riiser is a cool person, and I think that you should definitely support her work. So it is in the description. You know what to do, and if you do, I'm proud of you, and I will be sure to like give you a shout. Like if you can fucking pledge to that Kickstarter and quote me in that on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, wherever you know me from, I will retweet that thing and call you a cool person. That's what I can do because I have no money.
Riiser, thank you very much. That's wonderful.
I try. But yeah, that's all I had on my to-do list. Do you have anything you want to discuss? Any topic you want to bring up? Anything questions? Anything? Go right ahead.
Well, I can't really think of anything. I think I rambled off everything that I was thinking of. If you just give me random topics, I will talk endlessly. You know, that's just kind of my thing. That's how streams with me go. You give me a topic and I will ramble for 10 minutes until I get a new topic. So
what's that, Emily Ree of Anarchy Dreamers fame? Do you also do streams? Where could I go to watch one of these streams?
Well, Riiser of the Webcomic Relief, Right now, the best place to see me streaming is on Kickstarter Live. As of, I believe it's May 12th, which as of recording now is tomorrow, but Saturday, May 12th, I'm doing a sketch stream, which means I'm actually going to be drawing the art in real life, which will then be put inside comics that people purchase through the Anarchy Dreamers Kickstarter. So if you're interested in commissioning a sketch from me, you can do that through the Kickstarter. I will be doing another one later this week where I'll be offering up digital commissions, which is much easier to see me draw because, you know, screens and Picardo and things like that. But so right now that's the easiest place to find me. I do have a Picardo, but I use it so infrequently I'm not going to plug it right now.
Okay, but Emily Ree of Anarchy Dreamers fame. I'm an idiot. I can't tell dates apart. So is there I just sleep all the time and wake up and play fighting games. So if I was to keep track of everything that is going on with you and the Kickstarter and the streams, where could I possibly acquire such information?
Well, that's a wonderful question, Mr. Sleepy Fighting Game Guy. So, I'm most active over on Twitter. My handle is at REE_Emily, so it's at Re_Emily. Also, you can find the comic, which is free to read, by the way, on anarchydreamers.com, all one word. And also, you can just find me floating around the Webcomic Relief Discord at pretty much any given moment of the day.
Oh, I don't think I can find anything more to shill, but I dare say I did a good job.
You did a fantastic job. It's like that degree is get better at doing internet-y advertising things.
It comes with years. But yeah, if you don't have anything to add here at the end, I got nothing, so I think that's a wrap.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thank you right back. So everyone, go and check out the Anarchy Dreamers Kickstarter. Go and check out the Anarchy Dreamers webcomic. Go check out. Go follow Emily Ree on her Twitter at ReeEmily. Go. That was it. And yeah. If you do throw any money at the Kickstarter, do the Twitter has that thing where you can like put like but you also when you do something on Kickstarter and you like pledge something, you can press a Twitter button that will share it, and there you just like do the @Hellriser, and I will not only retweet it, I will also call you a cool person or compliment your hair out of jealousy. But yeah. So, thank you, Emily, and everyone, you know what to do, and yeah, I will see you guys during the next Webcomic Relief, or the next interview, or whatever the fuck, so take care, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.